Hi, everyone. I'm Frank Malakote. I'm an anchor reporter at KTVU Fox 2 here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My guest is Gene Rothkoph. Gene is now a consultant in the fashion and clothing industry after a highly successful career in New York and worldwide. And Gene and his wife, Rita, by the way, and his daughter as well, have all recovered from COVID-19. And he joins me from New York. Gene, how are you?
Hi, how are you, my friend?
Good to see you. I know we've chatted on the phone, but nice to see your face. Well, let's talk about.
I was thinking of taking my glasses off, but I'm not sure. I think I need them.
Well, you're handsome either way. It's all good. Well, let's talk about your journey. About a couple of months ago, I guess, you started getting sick, and what happened?
Okay. My daughter, who doesn't leave me alone and lives close by, found out that on Saturday, about 7 weeks ago, I didn't feel too well. And then Sunday morning, I took my temperature. And she found that I had 101. So she said, call the doctor. So I called my doctor, who works on Sunday. And the doctor turns around and says to me, well, I'm really not working. You have to go to City MD. So my daughter packed me in the car and took me over to City MD, which is like a urgent care place. And I must tell you, I fell in love with the place, but I fell in love with the doctor. The doctor was the nicest doctor I've ever saw. He was so good, I liked him for my personal doctor. Anyway, so the doctor gave me 6 tests. I can tell you what the tests are if you want. But
Yeah,
one was for your heart. One was for your, x-rays. One was for urine. He gave me 6 tests. One was for pneumonia. And he said to me, okay, Gene, I got good news for you. You don't have flu, you don't have pneumonia, you don't have any of these things that we tested you for. However, now I'll give you the nice, pleasant test. He says, you may like it, you may not like it, but I'm going to put a swab up your nose. So he puts this swab up my nose, turns it around a little bit, and then he comes back and he says to me, well, the good news is, or the bad news is, I can't tell you anything for 4 days. So I went home. My daughter was happy. She stayed outside. She wouldn't come in the place. We didn't bring my wife because my wife's never sick, according to my wife anyway. Rita's never sick. Anyway, so we went over and we did a job. And all of a sudden, 10 o'clock in the morning, I all of a sudden get a phone call from City MD. By the way, we don't have good news, but we have news. You have COVID-19. Okay? I said, wonderful. What do I do? Oh, they said, well, that's a different story. Now you have to call your regular doctor. So he said, but basically you drink lots of fluids and you stay hydrated and you just stay away from people and for at least 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is, and you take care of yourself. In the meantime, I've had a valve replacement. I've had 2 stents. And see, I don't really take lightly to advice like that. So I picked up the phone and I called on Sunday my special doctors in New York from Lenox Hill Hospital and asked him, well, here's what I got. Here's what they found. This is what do I do? So he told me, he said to me, they gave you the right advice. You stay away from people. You get your wife out of your room, you know what I mean, etc. And guess what? My wife told me she's coughing like crazy. She's got a fever, and she's telling me, now I have a cold. Now I have a cold. That's Rita, I have a cold, I have a cold. So meantime, Rita went, thank God we have 2 rooms more than 2 rooms in the house. So Rita went upstairs, and I stayed downstairs. And for really 3 to 4 weeks, we stayed apart. I mean, we talked to each other, but we stayed apart, basically. We drank lots of fluids. It was cold at night. It was cold during the day. We were sleeping, I would say, Rita and I were sleeping 20 hours a day.
Wow.
for 2 or 3 weeks. 20 hours a day. And then the fun began. How do you eat? We're missing this. We don't have that. We don't have this. Well, then the fun began. Some very nice lady delivered a little table and left it outside the door. A beautiful little outdoor table, left it outside the door. And they started shopping. Then the mayor of the town called. And he said, we have a shopping service. Then one of the guys, selectmen from the town called, did you get me anything? And then everybody started buying us, food. And then the doctor turns around and says, I want Molotov cocktails. That's Ensure. I want them in every day. Because I merely went from 160 to 146. And my wife merely went from 110 to 99.
Wow.
So we lost a lot of weight. They decided we lost a lot of bone. So they decided, we have to build you up. So now we have to take Ensure twice a day. And then we have to get built up. Then all the clients didn't like that they didn't hear from me. So everybody was calling me on the telephone, finding out how I'm doing. I said, don't call, text. So I ended up spending 20, 30, 40 minutes every morning, 20, 30, 40 minutes every night, just texting everybody. We're doing better. We're doing this. Then the fancy people called and said, wait a minute, we need more information than that. And then it started, the fun began. It was for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was really funny. It was not fun and games, but it was funny. There was food outside. The mailman decided he wasn't putting the mail in the mailbox anymore. He was leaving the mail on the table. So we had to go there and take the mail. The newspapers they were taking, because we weren't going out to get them, so they were taking newspapers and bringing them up on that little table. So this little table was like the outlet to the world, if you know what I mean. It made everything work well. And they were very, very, very nice. And all of a sudden we became a statistic, so we became important. But fortunately, and that's the most fortunate, since 85 and 83 is not exactly spring chickens, we never went to the hospital. We never had to go breathing problem. And every day, my fancy doctor from New York called up. He says, any breathing problems? I said, no. He says, good. Any this problems? I said, no. He said, good. Okay. Then my daughter, in the middle of the whole thing, she got nervous. She has a connection with the people that's called Hatzalah. That's the people that do the ambulance service. So she decided that my wife wasn't telling the truth. So she sent over these two guys from Hatzalah, arrive here. My wife said they look like little ants. They come out with the blue uniforms on and they're very professional and everything with the masks and everything. And they ring the bell and they come in the house. They say, where is Mrs. Rothkoph? Where is Rita Rothkoph? Her daughter wants her, blah, 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 blah. Her vitals taken. They run in the house. Really, they walk in the house. You could stop them. You could say no. But anyway, they go upstairs where Mrs. Rothkoph is. They give her, they give her a test. They ask her her name. They do this and this and this and this and this. And they turn around and say, Mrs. Rothkoph does not have to go to the hospital. She has got something. We're not giving her a test for it. We're not even testing you for anything. We're just telling you her vitals are fine and we're leaving. Yeah. So they ran out of the house. So my wife turns around and says, who were the two ants that came in the house, because they're so professional how they do it, etc. So they came in and they said, who were the two ants? So in the meantime, my daughter then got her report right away, because how was she? Because her friend has got a husband who's a part of the Hatzalah team and, part of this team and everything. So she got a report right away that her mother is okay. In other words, she's not dying, so that was good. We didn't have to go to the hospital. That was great. In the meantime, we went on and on and on every day, and it wasn't getting any better.
Jane, talk about some of your symptoms. How did you feel? I mean,
I will tell you. First and foremost, we were tired all the time. Tired. You couldn't even stand up. You could not stand up, if you know what I mean. You were tired. Right away, you turned around and said, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep. And the doctor said, no, you can't go to sleep. You have to stay up. You have to keep moving. Okay? So that was a conflict. Stay up or go to sleep. So while we slept 20 hours a day, we tried to at least keep moving. And then they wanted liquid and liquid and liquid. Chicken soup and liquid and just keep drinking liquid and liquid. Well, you know what happens when you drink a lot of liquid? You go to the bathroom all the time. So I figured out that I was going to the bathroom at least every hour at night and at least every hour and a half during the day. So that wasn't so pleasant. But listen, you had to do it to get better. I was willing to do it. Eating, I would tell you right now, I could tell you exactly why we lost the weight, because our eating was ridiculous. If we ate, we got one meal, it lasted at least 2 days. At least two. One meal for the both of us lasted at least 2 days, okay? But the biggest problem we had is you couldn't pick your head up. You know what I mean? She would say, I can't walk even downstairs to talk to you. You want to talk to me, you have to walk upstairs. I couldn't walk upstairs. That's how weak I was, you know. But fortunately, while some people, I understand, had trouble breathing, our breathing was fine. We could breathe beautifully, etc. We weren't. She was coughing. That's the thing I liked about her. She says, I don't have this stuff. But in the meantime, she was coughing terribly. Not seriously, but always coughing. Me, I was not coughing. Okay. Yeah. So my basic symptoms were total exhaustion, very weak. When they wanted to talk to me, I would turn around. I was, they want a conference call at the office once a week. So I would get on the phone and say, hi, it's Gene, and I'd hang up. I mean, I really couldn't, I couldn't participate. I wanted to participate. I wanted to at least say hello to my friends and my people, but I couldn't, okay? Anybody else that called, I was keeping them on the phone. My wife always hollers at me, be polite, be polite. I said, I'm trying to be polite, but I really can't do it. I'm just exhausted, if you know what I mean.
Gene, were you afraid at any time because with those underlying heart conditions and being
able now you brought up a very good point. I would say about the second week in, and everybody will tell you, I could send you text messages and emails from everybody. I'm the fighter, I'm the this, I'm that, and everything else. I would say there were a day or two there that I really turned around. I said, I wasn't saying I'm giving up, but I turned around and said, what the heck is going? I mean, I use word language in that. I said, what the heck is going on? You know what I mean? I really didn't know if it was worth it. The point was, though, I started to read and I started to look and I started to listen and I started to hear that every single time he's asking me about my breathing. So I realized the breathing was the most important. The one thing I will tell you, I'm not making a plug, but I wear a Fitbit. So the Fitbit was my lifesaver because I kept looking at the Fitbit to find out, yes, I was breathing properly. And it's very important. I'm going to tell you the story because when I had the thing where they thought I had a stroke and everything, they didn't know what happened and everything. When I had the stents and everything, they didn't know what happened. In the meantime, one of the doctors turns around and says, do you wear a Fitbit? I said, yes. So he looks at my Fitbit. He says, by the way, do you know you spiked to 128? He said it was only for about 3 seconds, but you spiked to 128. Then you went right down. But by the way, you didn't have a stroke. Okay. So now I rely on my Fitbit. So I looked at my Fitbit and I had breathing on my Fitbit. I kept checking my breathing and checking my breathing and checking. And I was breathing beautifully. I went up to her and I said to her, listen, would you breathe to my Fitbit? So she laughed. She says, leave me alone. I'm sick as a dog. Leave me alone. And that's, after 63 years, that's the way they talk to you. You know what I mean? But what can I do? She's sitting here laughing. But that's the way she talks to me, okay, after 63 years.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you guys closer? Because you told me it's the first time you've been separated upstairs, downstairs.
Well, that wasn't for long. That wasn't for long enough. That was only 3 weeks. I mean, she's here. She's laughing. Right? She's listening to everything I'm saying to make sure she'll tell me later if I said anything wrong, etc.
Oh, I'm sure.
But in the meantime, the whole thing with this thing is there was a lot of fear for what you didn't know. That I will agree. Yeah. The fortunate thing was because I had this entire team. Believe me, I know you don't think I'm not exaggerating. I really have a team of doctors when I say this. In other words, my doctors in New York who did all my heart stuff and everything, they are a fantastic group. And they're the head of the heart thing. So he called every day or texted every day. How's your temperature? Once the temperature broke, he said, you're okay. You don't have any breathing problems? I said, I would go like this, I'd breathe for him on the phone. He says, no, that's pretty good. By the way, he got it. He got it a couple of weeks ago. And he called me up and he says, this is a terrible bug. The big shot doctor got it. And now he says, this is a terrible bug. I said, you're taking care of me. In the meantime, you got it now and you're telling me it's terrible. I told you it's terrible. He says, yeah, but I didn't have it. Now I have it.
Well,
he's much younger than me. He's 50 years old.
Let me ask you this. Well, how are you feeling now? How are you and Rita and your daughter eventually got?
Other than my daughter being a pain in the you-know-what because she calls here 3 or 4 times a day and asks you why they're doing it, Rita and I, thank God, are doing well. Yesterday, we walked at least 2 miles. We're walking at least 1 mile every day. Today, it's a little cloudy, but when I get finished with you, we're still going to go out for a walk. Everybody comes around and say, why don't you say you're 100% already? I said, well, if I say I'm 100%, then I can't complain. So I tell everybody, tomorrow I'll be 100%. Right now I'm 98%. Realistically and honorably speaking to you, I'm telling you this. I'm telling it to the world who's ever listening. We are back 100%. Okay? We're not fighting. We're eating, we're drinking. We're still going to the bathroom a lot, but we're doing a lot better. Are all the symptoms gone? I would say the biggest symptom we got much less appetite, which is good. So what's the big deal? You have less of an appetite, okay? But the appetite's coming back, okay? We're watching a little more what we're eating, not eating so much sweets, okay? But overall, I would say we're going a little too much still to the bathroom, if you know what I mean. But strength-wise, we called our trainer. The trainer won't come, but the trainer gave us exercises to do. So he said, I'd like you to do 3 sets, 3 different exercises, 20 each, 4 times a day. We're up to twice a day, but we'll get to 4 times a day. We're feeling much stronger. I have to say, listen, I'm 85 and a half years old. Let me put it this way. I would fairly and honorably say I'm as good as I was before it started, with a few little minor changes in my behavior. But I think I'm as good as, my wife tells me I'm as ornery as I ever was. That's really not true. I'm very nice, but I just don't have any time for bullshit with the people, if you know what I mean.
I hear you. Well, God bless you for that.
All right, what other questions have you got, young man?
No, I was going to ask, do you feel blessed? I mean, a lot of people in your age bracket have not fared very well, especially in New York City. Just talk about your blessing in regard to.
Well, let me say this to you. I feel blessed for a long time, because without giving you the whole story, but I'll make it quick, I was going off the train, and I'm a very friendly guy. This is 3 years ago. And every time when I get off the train and I go past a policeman, I salute him like that. Every time I get off the train, I salute a policeman. One time I got off the train and I went with my left hand instead of my right hand. So the policeman says, come here. He says, what is this? You don't have a right hand anymore? I said, to tell you the truth, my right arm hurts. But I think it's from the way I was reading the newspaper. He says, you in there. He takes me into the police thing, okay? And he does blood pressure. He says, you're not going anywhere. Then he brings in what I call the stormtroopers. In other words, the fire department. This lady, she comes in with the boots on and everything else, and she says, listen, I know you want to go to work. I'll make you a deal. Get in the ambulance. I won't put the siren on. Get in the fire truck. I want to take you down to the Lenox Hill Hospital, to this new place. I want them just to check you out. If everything's all right, I promise you this. Sirens flashing, I'll take you right back to work. She says, there's something wrong. So they take me into Lenox Hill Hospital. Now, I have to tell you, Lenox Hill is a division of Northwell, okay? My wife and I were the original founders of the Children's Hospital at Northwell, which is, God knows, 30 years ago. But they remember those things. So they started to check out, and they said, we can't find anything wrong. Meantime, my grandson came, my son-in-law came, everybody's worried about me. They can't find anything wrong. All of a sudden, an hour later, they take a special test. They said, excuse us, sir, you can't go anywhere for 2 hours by law. He says, because there is something wrong. But if the test goes back after 2 hours, we'll let you out. If the test goes the other way after 2 hours, then we have a problem. That's when the fun began. So now I'll make it very quick. To make a long story short, the test wasn't good. That night I spent in Lenox Hill Hospital throughout the night trying to figure out what's wrong. The next morning, the guardian angel walks in and he says, do you have some time? I said, what are you going to do? He says, you told me you had a great heart. You have a heart that beats like a 35-year-old, but you didn't tell me they're 95% blocks, 2 stents.
Oh boy. So
he says, now you have a choice. Give me 30, 40 minutes. I'll put in 2 stents. You'll be fine. Or you could fight me and leave, but you might not get out of the hospital. So now you want to know if I'm blessed. That's why I was blessed, okay? Yeah. So I got 2 stents. While they were doing the 2 stents, there's a lot of guys in white coats standing around. They determined that I have something called a lazy aortic valve. They don't have to do it now, but in 8 weeks when I'm feeling better, They have to fix that. I said, you're not opening my heart. I'd rather die. Okay? So they said, no, be fair now. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it through the groin. So I had something called, through the groin, I forget what it's called right at the moment. But anyway. What?
Was it a catheterization?
No. They replaced my aortic valve through the groin.
Okay.
I forget there's a name for it. I forget, sorry with the name, I forget at the minute, but you look it up, you'll know the name right away.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I forgot it for a minute. And the guy says to me, I was the original founder of this, operation. I said, well, how many do you do? He said, well, I do 10 a week. I said, how many did you do on yourself? He said, none. I said, how do I know you're any good? So anyway, fortunately, now you want to know, that's blessed. So now I had stents and I had an aortic valve replacement. And then last year, about a year and a half ago, I went for a walk around the corner. I didn't feel well. I got a little dizzy. I was wavering. So I sat down on the street, called my wife who lived around the corner, come pick me up. She didn't know where I was, but I was around the corner. Anyway, she came to pick me up. They rushed me to the hospital. They thought I had a stroke. I didn't have a stroke. What happened was I had this what I told you on my Fitbit, this way where it went up, etc. So I lost the sight in the bottom of my right eye. It's called an ocular occlusion, and I can never get it back. Okay, so that's blessed. So now when this thing happened, of course I felt blessed that I didn't have to go to the hospital. I didn't want to go. What I heard the stories about the hospitals, with all my connections at hospitals and with all the hospitals there, I didn't want to go to a hospital. No matter what they were doing, they weren't taking, fortunately, I didn't have to go to a hospital. So that's how I feel blessed, if you know. As far as beating it, you know what everybody told me? You made your mind up you were beating it, if you know what I mean, from the day you got it, and that was your mind. Everybody tells me, they all write me, my texts, I show you the texts, 200, 300 texts. Fighter, how you do today? Fighter, how you did today? Fighter, if you know what I mean. That's my, you know what I mean? They know one thing. My number's not up. My mother died at 99. My father died at 94. I'm not ready to go yet. When I'm ready to go, I'm going to go.
Well, Gene, how about some advice for people out there that might have just been diagnosed or are going through this journey that you did the last couple of months? What would you say to those, especially folks that might be a little bit older, 60, 70, 80, like yourself?
Well, I think everybody, it's attitude. I must tell you, it's attitude. You've got to believe that you're going to get better. If you don't believe you're going to get better, you're only going to make yourself sicker. In every place and everything, in business, you got to believe you could do better. In life, you got to believe you can do better. In health, it's the most important thing is your strength. Your inner strength to say, I'm going to feel better. My wife, I'll tell you, my wife is the toughest. She wouldn't admit she had it. Okay? And she's sitting here laughing because she knows I'm telling the truth. She wouldn't admit she had it. I admitted I had it, and I took her by the hand and went through it together. But I think the most important thing for anybody that just found out that they've got it is to believe. First of all, I don't know if where in the country you are is a different story. But if you're in New York, please try to stay out of the hospitals, even though in New York, thank God, the hospital burden is a lot less. Try to breathe. I would say every single hour. Sit there for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and take deep breaths. In, out. I did that, by the way. I've done that for the last 3 years now since I've had the heart thing. I just breathe. You must breathe. Slow down a little.
Yeah.
Once it gets better that they've determined you can get out of the house, you must walk. I'm telling you, my wife and I did not feel good till we were walking on a regular basis. Yeah. Other than when it's pouring rain, we are out there. It's windy. We're out there. We're sure to walk. But we are trying to walk. 2 miles a day. Remember, we're people who walk 3-4 miles every day. I do 10, 12,000 steps every single day, if you know what I mean, on my Fitbit. And so to me, I have to walk. But I'm telling the people, once you feel better, you got to walk. Get outside and walk. Don't stay cooped up in your house, okay? Stay away from people, that's true. Wear a mask, that's true, okay? Don't rush it. try to do exercise as soon as you can. Don't do any, when you're sick, you're sick. You have to take care of yourself, okay? But I really must tell you, it's attitude. It's attitude.
I agree. I had an old wrestling coach in college that said, if you convince the mind, the body will follow. So a lot of it's right up here. So I totally agree with that. Last question, Gene. Some of the states like Georgia are starting to open up, beauty salons, massage parlors, beaches have opened up again. Some restaurants here this week as well. Are we ready for that, you think, after what you went through?
Well, now listen, I'm going to give you a big speech on that subject. If I don't get the barber, you know what I mean, the barber open soon and the beauty parlor open soon for my wife, first of all, I may get a divorce. And second of all, my hair may grow down. I may look like Paderewski, okay? Mine now is 8 weeks. So if you know what I mean, I'm looking for a haircut because the maximum I go is 5 or 6 weeks. My wife is telling me that if she doesn't get it pretty soon, the world is going to come to an end. You have to see her nails. She looks like Dracula. I try to cut them. So I cut the one that she works the microwave with. She says, you didn't do a very good job. It's not pretty, and I don't have any nail polish to put on. I said, well, you want me to cut them all up? I'll cut them all up. We'll go to CVS. What I would say is this. I believe we have to get back to work. This country was a great country. We were doing very, very, very well. I don't care who the leader, the leadership is very important to me, but I'm not getting into politics now. I'm just telling you, this was something that we didn't do. I'm telling you, I believe, I'm not going to go into China or whatever the hell it is, but whatever it is, we didn't do it. We've got to get back to work, but slowly and carefully. And I believe, by the way, certainly in the beauty parlors that we go to, you know, the hairdresser we go to, he can get back to work, just doesn't have to be a little stubborn. In other words, make an appointment, live up to the appointments, don't have everybody crowding around. Usually when you go in there, he's got an appointment, a half hour apart, but guess what? In 15, 20 minutes before, everybody's sitting there waiting. No. You have a 12:30 appointment, you show up at 12:30 or 12:29, if you know what I mean. And you're out by 1 o'clock. I believe you got to get this country back to work. Very carefully and very slowly. The restaurants, whether they like it or not, they'll have to have real appointments. I have no problem. I don't like to eat at 5 o'clock. But guess what? For a couple of months, I'll eat at 5 o'clock. Make it 5, 6:30. You know what I mean? An hour and a half. Spread the tables apart. This country's got to get back to work. The most important thing is to go back to work. I'm telling you, I'm 85 and a half years old. Officially, I retired. Officially. But guess what? In the meantime, everybody won't let me retire, so I'm back to work. And everybody says, when is this going to go over? We need you back. We need you back. So you got to understand something. You got to work. Don't be wrong. If you can't work, you can't work. But if you're young enough, and you got to get back to work. So as far as Georgia is concerned, if they're careful, I totally approve of it. And I think Cuomo did a wonderful job, and he's doing a great job. I think he has to figure out how to get not all of New York, but parts of New York back to work. We've got to get the economy back. We've got to see where we're going. And I believe you're going to find out we have a very resilient economy and a very resilient country, and we're going to be fine. But we got to get back to work. That I'm assuring you. I'm telling you, otherwise it's not going to work.
All right, Gene. Well, that was great. Thank you very much for your time.
I hope I didn't disappoint you.
Oh my God, no! I could talk to you for 3 hours. I especially with that New York accent. I miss it living back east all those years.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a good idea for me. If I really did a good job, we'll wait. You know what I mean? For 3 or 4 months, when this thing gets a little better, and then you and I can have another conversation, which you don't have to publish if you don't want, because it may be too political for you. Not political, it may be too commercial for you. But I'll tell you about how all my clients are surviving, because that's the one thing is they haven't let me off the phone. Every one of them is calling me on the phone, even when the 3 weeks when I was the worst sick, calling me on the phone to say, what are we going to do? What's going on? What suggestions do you have? How are we going to work this out? And this way I can give you a blow-by-blow description of how all this worked out, which is after the fact, which is much more important.
Well, Gene, I got your number. I got your email. I know your hometown. I know your wife's name. And I know what you did for your career. So why don't we just take that one to
And
the
before we go off, come here. Before we go off, you could see there is really a wife. Come here.
Come on, Rita.
Come over here. Say hello to Frank. We're not on the
Hi,
recording
Frank.
anymore.
How are you?
Can you see her?
Down, Rita, so we can see your
No,
face.
come here, Rita.
Yeah.
Go lower so you can see you.
Oh,
There is a
we
Rita.
go. Beautiful.
There is a Rita, okay? But her hair's not done, so she's not happy. All right, out.
Well, I'm not too far behind. Not too far behind.
Frank, it's really been a pleasure to talk to you. And do me one favor. I don't care what gets published or doesn't get published, but whatever's going to get published, give me some idea, because I got all my friends in San Francisco and all my friends out here, and everybody said, just give us something to look at. We want to see what you look like. I have a friend of mine. He's formerly the chairman of a very big company. He has a what do you call that? A podcast, whatever it is.
Sure.
On Saturdays and Sundays for an hour each. It's called Always in Fashion. Okay. Anyway, this guy turned around and said, "You're much more famous than I am. I only have a radio program. Now you are on television." So he wants to see me on.
We'll work on that, Gene. I got to close this segment out, but you are a delight. I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad Rita's healthy. It was nice to meet her, albeit briefly, and your daughter as well. Continued good health out there in New York, and keep bringing it, Gene, at 85 and a half. God bless you. Gene Rothkoph.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. I'm Frank Malakote here with KTVU Fox 2 in San Francisco. We'll send it back to you.